logo. How about a logo to start? You can't just see directly into the studio. It's crazy.
Where's the logo?
It's coming. I swear it's coming. It's probably up there already, actually. The screen's probably just frozen here. So, anyway, this is the Jimmy Doane Show. And we're live, as you can tell. We do this twice a week at 4 o'clock, Wednesdays and Sundays, right here on this channel. And then I'll post a timestamp copy up on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Parler, Gab, some other places, in video format and then audio format around the web. If you search for Doane, D-O-A-N-E, Jimmy, you'll find us. We do this without editors, except for corporate.
Right.
Without filters. There is no net. Anything could happen. Today is the 8th day of November in the fortuitous year of 2020. What is happening?
Boy, what's not happening? Well, first, one little quick update.
Tons going on.
Bitcoin went up another $2,000.
Oh, did it get over 17 or?
No, 15,384.
Okay,
Since the
it
last-
actually it went to 16.
Oh, did it? Okay, yeah. I saw that, and but basically, it's in the past 2 weeks, it's gone from what?
Crazy talk, man.
Yeah, crazy talk. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, it could easily. I think for sure we'll see 20,000 again before. Here's my prediction.
Yeah.
So bet against this.
Yeah, right. I'll never forget when I
For
made
sure
that. I
we'll
made
see
that prediction about
20,000.
gold, and it tanked for 5 years.
Yep.
So I don't know.
But now you're vindicated.
No, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Finally, except
hey.
I bailed out. Okay,
Uh-huh.
what do you suppose the top story is?
Let me think. Something to do with immigration.
No,
Foreign-
It's
something.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Something. Mozambique.
Killer bees.
Killer bees. Yeah.
That's right. Wait, no, I know. It's Johnny Depp and who he's dating.
That's right. Exactly right. No, of course, the headline, of course, everywhere.
Dun 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 dun
Dun,
dun.
Biden winner.
That's it.
Now, it's interesting to see, of course, the massive gloating
It's all over.
all over. It's all over, right? It's just amazing. And,
Gloating by who?
well, by the usual suspects.
Right. Cenk and.
Yeah, Cenk and the people over at Slate.
Uh-huh.
Boy, they're the one of the guys at Slate.
Well, you got to be careful to gloat right now, man. This is kind of like the goal line celebration.
Right. Well, that's not all. That is one of the things that I love to see is on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
They have the things. They have the little snippets of you celebrated a tad too early.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I love to see the ones where especially in the mixed martial arts,
Uh-huh.
where he smacks the guy down. And the guy, is down on the floor and everything. The other guy's walking around like this, and then the guy gets up and knocks him out.
Yeah. To me, my favorite are the football ones.
Yeah, the football ones, right?
In front of the entire stadium.
Right.
You're wide open to the end zone.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you drop the ball on the one.
Oh yeah, right.
And to me, now here's the thing. There's a dichotomy right now on the left-hand side. Because, see, if you were the most vociferous against Trump, and you said he was a dictator and he's Hitler and all this stuff, well, what happened? I mean, are you saying Mr. Dictator lost an election?
Yeah.
I mean, what did he do? Fail election rigging class in dictator school?
Well,
F. No, Mr. Trump, you cannot allow them to actually vote.
Yeah.
Take this. What is this? What kind of tribe is? When he shows up at his next Illuminati meeting, I mean, they're going to punch his dictator
no,
card.
that's right. No, that's it. You're out of here. You're demoted. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what?
Yeah.
What did you do? I mean, now here's my thought: if you said that, if you said Trump is a dictator, you know who you are. You know who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter Schiff and Trunk, not Peter Schiff, but Adam Schiff and those guys. Now is your chance to double down.
Yeah.
Because if he's a dictator, he'll win this.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's what dictators do.
They can't lose. He can't lose in the courts. What kind of dictator loses in the courts?
Well, yeah.
An election. I mean, just worst dictator ever. I mean, seriously.
Well,
and with Putin's help, for Christ's sake. If you've been screaming Russia, Russia, Russia this whole time, you don't think they? I mean, maybe they cut him loose this time. They said, you know what, you didn't do too good of a job. We're not going to interfere this time.
no. Red phone, please. I need to call him up. I need some help.
I mean, seriously. If you're going to help,
Comrade Putin,
look,
I need help.
if you're Putin, you helped one side or the other, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're not just going to sit this one out in the American. I mean, once if that power structure has been promulgated, then it's out there.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious. Now's your chance to double down and say if he's a dictator, and if obviously, if he doesn't win, then.
Well, I did see where somebody, one of the semi-prominent people said, at least the Nazi's gone now.
Right, the Nazi. We voted him out.
We voted the Nazi out, yeah. It's a bright, shiny day, flowers, sunshine, everything.
Well, I mean, that's obviously, the next question is, first 100 days, is this, I mean, the kids' cages open up right away? I mean.
Well, we can talk a little bit about that because it is kind of interesting. When some of the things that, first of all, let me just say that it is the celebrations are phenomenal. I mean, they're all over the place. I will say this: there's no breaking, no looting, no smashing of windows.
Right.
I gotta say that.
Well, yet.
I understand. We got things to do yet.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to a number of people that were just cheering, and well, Van, what's his name? He's crying tears.
Yeah.
He was so happy on the TV.
Hey, look, lots of people are relieved and happy.
Yeah.
With
the long nightmare, the 4-year nightmare is over.
That's right.
Well, be careful, not quite so fast. First of all, as the Daily Wire people, that's Ben Shapiro and the other two guys that are there,
Matt Walsh and
Louder with Crowder and those their surf on.
He's not part of them, but I know what you mean.
He's not?
I don't think so. No, he's got his own gig going.
Okay. But anyway, they go through the litany of what's going to happen here, and they said, it ain't over at all. It ain't even remotely over, because there are a lot. Nothing's been certified. Nobody's actually won yet. I mean, this is you're a little premature, a little dancing before you get into the end zone, as we just said.
Well, look, yeah, that is definitely the case, and I mean, there's no way around it to recognize that. Look, when the courts have it, if the courts have it, it's undecided, because the people are going to do whatever the courts say. I mean, if the courts come out and say nope, Pennsylvania goes to Trump and Georgia and whatever, and recount here, or I mean, he's got a real constitutional issue in Pennsylvania thing. The other challenges are going to have to be novel, shall we say?
Okay.
It's going to be, can he mount some sort of mathematical challenge, a statistical analysis of the votes? That kind of a thing. In order to uncover, they would have to uncover duplicate ballots en masse in some way. I mean, his legal battle is super uphill.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about it at this point. But the thing about it is that it's still there. I mean, it's still a possibility. And one interesting thing about the simulation, shall we say, at this point, is in this particular simulation, Trump's a winner.
Okay.
Right? I mean, just that's his character.
Yeah, right.
Like that's just what he does.
Yeah.
And Biden's a loser.
That's what he does.
That's what he does.
That's right.
He snatches defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
Right? And Trump does the opposite. So, I mean, in the simulation, just if the simulation holds, if the drama holds, one would expect the giant rug pull at this point. I mean, this is the third act. I mean, this is when you can't see the hero winning. It's over.
Well, as I say, it is interesting because I did see one cartoon that showed the fat lady singing, and I saw another one that said when the guy was coming out from behind the curtain, not yet, not yet. The guy's coming in from the side of the stage. She's sitting there with the horns on her.
That's it.
That's right.
That's it.
No, hold off
That's
on
it.
that.
And look, and it's interesting. I was going to play this super fast video here. This shows you. I mean, you've got the various people, the AP, and everybody coming out for their sides just for fun. Last night I went on Japan TV.
Okay.
This is Japan TV, and you can see up here in the left-hand corner, it says 253 to 213.
Okay.
Internationally, it's not called yet.
Right.
I mean, at least in Japan.
Right.
And so they're explaining here how to falsify a vote. No, I'm just kidding.
In Japanese.
That's right.
Was it in Japanese?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh totally. You can't hear it, but if I turn this up right here, they can hear him. See that she's explaining what she's saying here is we have an official ballot. We're going to vote for Biden. And
she got her ballot.
That's right.
I love it.
And so, anyway, that's what. And here, these are their plants that they've got. Cleverly, African Americans, Japanese people in there.
I see. Yeah, right.
Falsifying their particular votes. So, anyway, like I said, I do not expect Trump to prevail in the legal battle, but there is a way. And it's just interesting that.
Well, I saw where Dilbert, what's his name?
Scott
gave a slight preponderance
yes.
to Trump winning.
Well, like I said, the simulation says, "What the hell are you thinking? Of course he's going to win this."
Yeah.
I mean, the simulation says it'll look terrible. And I mean that's the worst case scenario. That's what the media would want because what a story.
Oh
right?
yeah.
I mean, you get to hammer this.
You get to cover riots for the next 6 months.
Seriously, riots for 6 months.
I mean, Mike,
and the collapse of the republic. I mean, that's going to be the Chiron on everything.
Oh my God! Well, not only that, it'll be. You're going to have two incredible things as all the rioters go out. This will be worse than the Rodney King riots.
Right.
I mean,
because also they're going to get COVID still.
That's what I'm just saying. It's a double whammy, right? Because as they all go out, maskless.
Well, with Trump still in charge, people are still going to die of COVID.
Right.
So I mean, look, I don't see how the media can pass this one up. I mean, if you were in the camp that says the media can control things, Trump's going to win again. It's like if it's Putin, it's Trump. If it's Trump, it's Trump. If it's the media, it's Trump. If it's the simulation, it's Trump. Weird. I mean, now that being said, of course, me personally, well, we have our own corporate issues.
That's right, we do.
It would be better for us if Trump won, just from the corporate standpoint.
Yeah.
But that being said, he deserves to lose. I mean, from my perspective.
Okay.
Because he did not fulfill his mandate.
No, he didn't.
Which was to drain the swamp.
Well, also build the wall was the other one.
Well, I mean, that to me, that's
when culture turned around.
I don't want. Well, actually, I do want a wall, but I want free immigration. I mean,
no, that's you, right? Yeah. You're one of those.
But I mean, to me, that wasn't why he was sent to Washington. He was sent there to drain the swamp.
Right.
And instead, he went for a swim. And maybe he put a little tributary off to the side or something. I mean, a tax cut that I don't know who felt the tax cut. I mean, I don't know if it trickled down all the way to us or not. I mean, we're pretty low on the totem pole. But,
well, we did get a check.
Right. Well, we got the $1,200 or whatever, so that's something. But I mean, what a minor impact relative to what everybody was kind of hoping. Maybe he would slash spending. Maybe somebody would take on the third rails.
Yeah. Well, good luck on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe somebody would take on the military-industrial complex. I mean, what did he do? He squoze a few billions out of the NATO people, and then spent $6 trillion.
Yeah. Right. Well,
so I mean,
okay, so well, we do have, unfortunately, this is the drip drip drip. You wait every day just about for some other piece of news. To yesterday's headline in our local paper, yesterday was Biden wins, and everybody is saying that he won.
Right.
When in fact. They don't even the certification doesn't happen until sometime in December.
Well, it's different for different states.
Yeah, different for different states. But I'm saying that the college, the electoral college, meets on December 16th or
and
something.
look, the whole Al Gore thing took 45 days.
Yeah.
You know, it took into December before they figured it out.
Right.
So one would expect it to
At least
take at least a couple of weeks. I mean, as I said before the election, I expected a few challenges, some to be tossed out sort of summarily, and then one to last a couple of weeks. And so we'll see.
Well, it'll. Of course, one has to realize that until January 2nd, the Congress, is the legislative body is still what it is right now.
Right.
They got a plurality of what do you call it? Two or three senators, 53 to 47 or something, and the House is what it is. Interestingly, so it's not like they could go out and run out and impeach ABC or whatever her name is.
Miss Barrett?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, they're not going to do anything for 2 months. I mean, at least, obviously.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going to wait until they
Well, they're all
inaugurate.
panicky. Of course, because now if it goes to the Supreme Court, you've got some people that might just decide might pull a Roberts on them. This is a it's not a fee, it's a tax or something, whatever the hell it is.
Right.
Might do this. What are you talking about, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the Supreme Court could easily hand it to Trump. At this point.
Right. That's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, that's a real possibility. But I mean, I think that we're down in the 5% or less range. From my perspective.
From your perspective, right? Well, it is interesting because Scott Adams is thinking it's.
He should double down. If he was smart, he would double down right now. And he did. He said 60-40
Right, he
Trump
said 60-40, right.
So, I mean, he's kind of on board with that. But, I mean, why not go 100? I don't understand why he doesn't go 100. I mean, it's an either or. I guess maybe 60-40 is his real prediction. But, it's an either or.
Right, well, yeah, that's right. I mean, we're not going to have two presidents, are we?
Well, actually, he did predict that.
He said, yeah.
For some,
you can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to actually live in the White House? And
Look, I've been telling everybody for months, you don't have to worry about it because whatever the Supreme Court says, that's going to be it. They're either going to reject Trump's pleas and say, look, you got nothing here.
Yeah.
You got nothing, go home. In which case, he literally goes home. And he will. There won't be any issue. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. That being said, if they come out and say, look, you blew it with the vote and Trump wins, people will respect that. I mean, not the crowds. The crowds will go out and do whatever they're going to do. But what I've said before also is, at that point, it'll be too late. So burn whatever you want. You're just going to get your asses arrested and clubbed and knock yourselves out. I mean, seriously, like, come on out, because at that point they will not be firing rubber bullets.
Well, of course, it could end up looking like the end of V for Vendetta when the cops just stood aside.
No,
not there, huh?
No, not even close.
Okay, I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, but the thing is that they're just the rule of law still exists all the way down, all the way. There's no major breaks in it at any spot. So it's whatever the Supreme Court says in the next couple of weeks is going to hold, and the rest, everybody be damned.
Well, we're going to hold our breath, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Somebody is. Okay. I got another thing here. Is again about COVID.
You want to? Okay. Well,
I'm sorry. Do you have something else about?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the first 100 days.
Okay.
I mean, presuming Biden wins.
Okay.
What do you think's going to happen?
Well, one thing he has said that his numero un priority is COVID. He's already setting up another task force, just a war room for the COVID. Wait a minute, we already had one of those, didn't we?
Well, what could he possibly do?
Here's exactly what he's going to do.
Okay.
He's going to urge. He's going to call the Republican, Democrat. We talked about this before. Democratic governors during the transition. This is before he's president.
Okay.
And urge them to adopt mask mandates and communicate the importance of social distancing.
Well then,
yeah.
Why didn't he say so? I guess he's saying so.
Yeah, he's saying so now. This is it. Time is not on his side. It says here, according to this, The country has surpassed 128,000 cases on Friday. I guess that's the number of deaths.
Yeah.
Setting a record for the third straight day with more than 1,000 people a day are dying.
Well,
a toll that is expected to grow in coming weeks as the weather turns colder, and this I love, and many Americans retreat indoors. Now, here's my question. You want everybody to stay home and social distance and everything, but if they retreat indoors, it's going to get worse.
Look, I think the entire approach to COVID will be scrambled here if we get an election result, and if it's Biden.
Okay.
From my perspective, and if he comes out and says all of that, I don't think the governors are going to do anything. I mean, they already know everything he can tell them. I mean, what can he possibly tell them? We really want you to do this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at there.
I mean, really. Really.
They're talking here.
Please.
Of course, all the newspapers, again, with all the scare tactics, not a day goes by that there's not a new record set, all-time high for the number of cases and so forth. Almost every time. Look out now, run for the hills. And of course, they're saying that by mid-January, i.e., around inauguration time, it's really going to get bad.
Oh yeah.
So on the day he takes office, that's going to be the worst. And so now he's going to make the phone calls to the governors and say, "Would you please?
Would you please?" I mean, do you think he is going to apply any, as you intimated before, financial pressure?
Yes. Biden has laid out. He says he's laid out a far more muscular federal approach than Trump, and he would urge state and local leaders to implement mask mandates if needed. And he's going to create a panel on the model of FDR's War Production Board to scale up testing and lay out detailed plans to distribute vaccines to 330 million people after they're green-lighted as safe and effective.
Do we have a problem here?
Yeah, I think we do.
We got some kind of understanding.
Yeah.
Between the states. I don't know.
330 million people. Now, so this is the idea. Now, people, of course, are talking about a vaccine. Trump's people are saying we're going to vaccine way before the end of the year. And other people are saying, well, maybe next year, maybe not. Maybe 2022. We don't know. Could be. By the time you test it. And of course, the other thing, 330 million people are supposed to get tested. Now, you do understand that's everybody from 0 to 115.
Okay.
And that's the entire population. So we're talking about, newborns to, geriatric people in the hospice place or something. And of course, the question is, do you suppose there's anybody that's going to say, not me?
Well, yeah, to the mandatory vaccine. And
right.
Did you hear? Apparently the vaccine hurts.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Apparently it's painful. And you have to get it in more than one dose.
At least twice.
Yeah, so you get the pain, and then you get to anticipate.
And then you get to go back for it.
Exactly.
And let me tell you something. That's some of the things you're interested in. One of the things you have here, one of the things that we have here in Florida, which is great, on the beaches, during certain parts of the year, we have these little tiny stickers. If you're from up north and you run out on the beach, you go, you're picking these things off your feet. Guess what? You don't go back out. You wear your sandals. You do something.
Yeah.
I mean, you take no, I'm not going to do that again just to go to the ocean.
Yeah.
And this is once you've been.
Well, that's what we call friction. It's going to create some friction if it's painful.
Yeah.
And look, obviously,
especially if you're going to start vaccinating 5 and 8-year-olds.
Oh yeah, well that's just
look.
I hope that people stand up for their rights. I mean, look, as on board as I am with vaccinations generally and public health generally, we're talking about something here that kills 0.0 something percent of people under 50. That should not be a mandatory vaccination. I mean, that's just not even close.
You want grandma to die.
Right. Well, it's not even close to smallpox or I mean, it's not even close. We're not even in the ballpark of most of the major bad flus. I mean, this is so, and my thought here is, look, we have ceded way too much power in terms of people's ability to minorly inconvenience us with things like
That's true.
with wearing masks and not going to your work and soon having vaccines. And I wonder what people are going to put up with. We'll see. I think it's going to change a lot if they come out and they're too optimistic and talk about how COVID is gone now. We got it. We won. It's over. People are going to believe them and say, okay, fine. Then I can go back to my work and don't have to wear a mask and won't get the shot. And if they come out and say, well, it's a horrible, terrible mess and you're all going to die, I think people are going to say, no.
Yeah.
Not so much, but
It's
I don't know.
interesting. Of
I have
course,
a lot of faith in him.
he did give a after he was declared by the AP and the other people the winner.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and gave a speech, which is
Oh yeah, he wore the purple suit and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a nice speech.
nice speech. We want to unify the
Right.
country, and I'm sitting there. Good luck.
Well, that's what. Look.
They all say that. I know that.
Well, yeah, and look, at least he said it. At least he's given lip service. But I think people are going to realize real quick the difference between political lip service and reality in terms of on the ground, what's going to happen one way or the other. I mean, when I look at the first 100 days, I'm thinking to myself, nothing is going to happen. Okay, this is a guy who's famous for nothing, and
47 years.
yeah. And here's the thing: people think, well, he's going to have at least one house, if not both houses of Congress. Let's assume he gets both. Let's assume he gets the Senate right in January. He wins the special Georgia things, whatever. You know what the first thing that happens is when you've got a coalition like that. The ambition of the coalition is directly proportional to its size.
Okay.
And they start to come up with passing bills like Obamacare.
Right.
And then what happens is they need everybody's vote. And then when they need everybody's vote, guess what happens? People bargain for shit.
Boy, they do too.
They are going to be. Remember Obama had both the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
And he got literally one thing done.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense because once they put that one big thing on the table, they're like, this is Obamacare, it's coming out, here it is. We need everybody on board, all hands on deck. Everybody's like, really? All hands, huh? You don't say.
Well,
these hands?
Yeah.
So, what I really like for my district is, and everybody went and got their little piece.
They did.
And here's the other thing. What you do in this situation is you hold out till the end. You're the last guy. You want to be the last house on the block to sell before the developer.
It is musical chairs.
Totally.
It is musical chairs. You sit down. Hey, guess what?
Hey, listen, by the way, that deal we made a few minutes ago, I'm standing back up again.
That's it.
I mean, it's going to be over and over and over, okay? Now, and this is Biden who's going to have to pressure them. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Now, maybe there's some other pressure behind the scene or whatever, but my thought is first 100 days, nada, followed by chaos, or chaos followed by nada.
Okay. Well, I think it is interesting because, I don't know, when they were buying up here in the 60s and 70s, when they were buying up Orlando outside of Disney, I mean, where Disney was going to be.
Right.
They snuck around.
Totally.
They snuck around, and of course, the last couple of people have figured it out. Guess what?
They made
$1 million
exactly.
per acre.
You want my swamp? No problem.
That's right.
And
I mean, it was interesting because they tried everything, shield corporations and everything, but it wasn't too long before people started figuring it out.
Man, and look, and if these people know it. I mean, they know the game.
Yes,
as
they totally
soon
do.
as it gets set into place, it's going to be all right. It's bargaining time to play.
Well, you got that right.
So I'm. I look around and I think, racism? Over, right?
Yeah.
Riots, stop, No, probably not. Like, you don't unleash that beast without feeding it,
Yeah.
I mean, you got a whole bunch of people dressed up and no place to go, basically.
Well, yeah, but they're going to go someplace.
They're going to go somewhere.
That's it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, this is what same thing that I always about the military. The difference between men and boys is the price of their toys. And when you got a couple of billion, $50 billion in munitions, somebody's going to want to try them out. And that's going to be, and this, of course, we're going to talk about that here in a minute too, because let me continue on about. Do you have something else on this particular thing? First 100 days?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, it maybe bleeds into other stuff. So keep going.
Okay, Europe is back in lockdown mode.
Okay.
Spain, France, where a second wave of infections spread in mid-July, led the way by imposing local lockdowns from early and mid-October, respectively. So they're re-locking down everything. France announced a national lockdown to start Friday, which is, Friday was 2 days ago. Spain's local solution now includes several major provinces. Germany is following these cues to lock down the country starting November 2nd, which is a week ago or so, opting for the national route. And several other European countries followed suit. Poland, which explicitly does not call for new measures, but they are talking about restrictions from restaurant and school closures and canceling cultural and other events, limiting the number of groups that can meet to 5, restricting hotel access and urging people not to travel around the country. What's interesting is, if you start to close down the hotels, there goes your tourist business.
Yeah.
Out the window. Mm-hmm. So they're expecting to ease them maybe in early December. They're thinking about maybe unlocking. What is this?
Well, this is just 5 policemen putting a mask on some guy.
Oh my God! Where is that in England?
I think
it looks like it.
I think it's Australia, but yeah, I don't know. It could be the checkered.
The checkered thing, yeah. Well, anyway, along that lines, thousands gather across UK to denounce the national lockdown. Mm-hmm. England started its second COVID lockdown on Thursday amid concerns of the virus pandemic's reemergence over September and October, and has resulted in soaring hospital admissions, it says here, across the country. Nearly 3 days into the lockdown on Sunday, anti-lockdown protesters flooded the streets in several cities, denouncing the latest round of restrictions. Prime Minister Boris Johnson introduced a 3-tier system that would restrict travel among residents in virus hotspot regions. So he announced the second lockdown that would begin on Thursday. I don't know what this 3-tier is exactly, but trying to mitigate the second wave pandemic, and because what they want to do is to not overload the hospitals again. Nobody's talking about no fewer people dying. We just want to make sure that
you get fewer people dying if you don't overload the hospitals. The concept is, if the hospitals get overloaded, then people who could have got treated die instead of getting treated because the hospitals are overloaded.
Okay.
So if you can flatten the curve long enough to let people get treated, then people won't die just from lack of treatment. You'll still lose all the people who would have gotten sick, but.
Yeah. So anyway, what they're saying is that people are now confined to their homes for a month, except for essential travel. All non-essential business have been closed, along with pubs and restaurants. Now, I'm telling you, England closing the pubs, that's not a real good idea.
Well, look, the whole thing is a terrible idea. All I can do is just keep repeating that, because from my perspective, it's just terrible idea after terrible idea. They have to get off of the concept of limiting the healthy people. I mean, they have just got to abandon the whole concept of imprisoning or restricting healthy people. You are allowed, as an adult American, to risk your health. You're allowed to go out there. I mean, look, if there was a plague out there that killed 10% of people across the board, no question about it. If you got it, you died. You couldn't tell people to just stay in their houses. I mean, you just can't. That's not how we do it anywhere around here. And everybody has lost their collective minds when they start talking about all these restrictions on healthy people. No is the answer. And I just don't. I'm waiting for people to fight. I mean, I guess they're starting to in various places. But
well, it is interesting because in England or in the UK, I mean, they've kind of really gone seriously down the socialist path in a lot of ways.
They have.
But they're out there. You're not going to tell me I can't go to my local pub.
Well, I mean,
And
what you just saw was an arrest of some woman, complaining, and they ganged up. Look, they're arresting people, and we'll see how far it goes. Like, there are people still out there, and there are going to be more out there. And like I said, I thought they would be most out there at the loss of their businesses.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. And then I thought, well, the schools showed down, because apparently the moms were going to be pissed off that all the schools are closed. And then we sort of got through that somehow. And so now the question is, if Biden gets in charge and he calls all the people up and he puts some economic pressure on them or something, what will the governors do? How far will they go? And how will the people respond?
Well, you can bet that once you start withholding federal funds from governors, the suits will come sailing in, because you can't do that kind of stuff.
Well,
Even though he could. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The law. Well, I'll tell you, it'd be a great time to be an attorney. Federal. Yeah.
well, and I guess DeSantis here and in Florida has said no more lockdowns.
Yeah. He said, yeah.
Sweden is still cranking,
Yeah.
doing their thing, and other people's cases are cranking up. Sweden passed 6,000 deaths finally. They're up to 6,022. So, if you look around, I think.
Well, again, another things we
It just
have,
seems obvious.
another things that are happening here. There are a couple of things that I thought here, some headlines that are kind of interesting. Spirit Airlines.
Okay.
Did you see this? Spirit Airlines flight attendant threatens to have people who don't wear their mask arrested and put on the no-fly list. What they do is, if you don't wear your mask correctly on Spirit Airlines, they take your seat number, they know who you are, and when you get off the plane, you're arrested, and you're put on a permanent, forever no-fly list. And they're on a no-fly list for life, and have them arrested and jailed for 20 years.
Well, okay, a few things. If you're Spirit Airline and you want to enforce the mask on your plane, knock yourselves out. They should not have, and probably don't have, and I can't imagine how they have, any power to arrest anybody.
What they say is, let me remind you, said, this is the guy Mario, he was one of the flight attendants. Let me remind you, we are government officials, and this is government property. And he says, who misbehave, threatening passengers who misbehave, with 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine.
And what he's probably talking about there is if somebody assaults him.
Yeah.
Because he's right in the sense that they are deputized as federal officers in some sense, some of the people.
Okay.
And if you touch them, then you get battery on law enforcement, the type of thing. And they can try for 20 years. You'll be threatened with 20 years, but you're not going to jail for 20 years unless you beat the crap out of a bunch of stewardesses or something.
Yeah.
You go Hulk Hogan on 6 stewardesses. And,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then you're going to get some time. But otherwise, they can throw you off, and that's about all they can do. They can threaten this stuff, and that's what they should do if they want to. I mean, you always threaten law
we've
enforcement.
already seen where this one guy was he thrown off, or what? I think he was thrown off, who was eating or drinking a Coke or something, and he took his mask down to drink the Coke. And some lady across the aisle complained bitterly, and they came around. I think they finally got him off the plane or something. And some other passengers saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And of course, that's one of the things that you'll find interesting is that so often you look at, like, when the guy's leaning on what's his name, Floyd's neck, and there's a whole bunch of people around,
Right.
there, and they're cameras, and you can imagine. I mean, you notice that nobody ran out of there and pulled the guy off.
Right.
Because you're going to do some serious time if you do that,
Yeah.
and that's it's sad in a way. But so here you are.
Well, I mean, look, there's not much you can do. I mean, in those situations, you kind of want it to play out like that. I mean, you have to have law enforcement, and unless they're really literally beating the crap out of somebody, in which case I have seen people jump in.
Yeah, it's pretty rare though. I mean, I remember one time I saw this one. It was in Baltimore, I think, and this, it was right out of Hollywood Central Casting. The cop was way overweight, and there were kids, 12 and 13-year-old kids, skateboarding. And he came over and said, "You can't do that here." And they were giving him this business and everything like that. And he picked up one of them and slammed him on the ground and, just really wounded him, And you're sitting there thinking, Jesus, skateboard, this, why would, and of course it was all on film. I mean, why didn't somebody run in there and say, "What the hell are you doing?" They're kids.
Yeah. Well,
this was the ultimate bully you can imagine.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who obviously been bullied in high school. The guy was 100 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And
well, look, I defend cops because it's not the cops. It's really not. People talk about this whole thing. Oh, the cops, they're all bad. One bad is all bad, and there's some bad eggs. No. That's not it. It's the laws. Okay, I'm telling you, it's the laws. The laws have brought the cops into conflict with the people because now we have a bunch of laws. You have a bunch of things that you can do that are illegal that can get you jail time and prison time that don't hurt anybody. And it is clouded the definition of what's right and what's wrong, and people have stopped helping the police in the bad neighborhoods because of it. So and then when the police stopped getting help, well, now they've got, instead of friends, they've got enemies in the area. And so it has created this divide, and there's ways to solve it, and they need to get rid of the victimless crimes. And
that's one of the things they need to do. But the other thing, I remember years ago, I was talking to one of our city commissioners, and at a shindig, and I said, what are you doing about such and such? What it doesn't make any sense. He says, "Look, hey, vote me out." And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's
what I'm asking.
That's well, it was interesting. He said, you have remedy at the ballot box, and I'm thinking, that's 2 years away, number one. And
that's what you get. That's all we can do. We have a better law enforcement system than almost anybody. In honesty, when you get picked up by the police, there are just a slew of rights that you get afforded most of the time that you do not get in other countries. And it's not perfect. It doesn't work as smoothly as people imagine that it would. Whenever people get arrested, who are normal people, they're always shocked when they come to see me the first time.
Yeah.
They're always stunned and jarred that they could be treated the way that they were in America. They imagine that the arrest is something like on Mr. Rogers, where the policeman comes up and says, "Hey, I'm going to have to take you in now." And the arrestee goes, "Okay, well, you
don't have to cuff me."
That's right. Don't worry about it, Bob. I'll take you in, and then you can bond out later, No, it's not like that. It's not like that at all.
Meet you down there.
Yeah, exactly. You can drive your car if you want. You just be turning around. No, it's not like that at all. It's very adversarial, very much so, because it's a force thing, and it feels very personal when you're involved in it, and so it should only be used for very serious circumstances, and that's one of the institutional problems. If you want to talk about institutional problems in our system, it is that our law enforcement has expanded to fucking chewing gum at this point.
Right.
And it's about to cross over into words, where it already has in Canada and Australia and Britain. And if we get to that point, we lose a huge chunk of ground.
Well, that actually, it is interesting when you see, if you do say something like you use an F-bomb or something like that on the cops, they get all upset.
Not really.
No.
Not really. Not anymore.
They'll use them on you, by God.
Oh, well, yeah, look, and you're not going to get any favors from them if you start dropping F-bombs.
Yeah.
But I have defended many people who were getting arrested and decided to let the cop hear about it, and nothing else happened. They are designed and trained like the Queen's Guards to sit there and take the abuse. And people talk about, well, the cops are people who want to hurt people. They get into that because they're bullied, or because they're bullied when they were a kid, or because they are bullies, or whatever. Some, but 90% of them get into it because they're the nice guy. They really are officer friendly. They want to help people. They're the guy who brought in the groceries for grandma and helped the old lady across the street and stuff. Those are the people that the police generally attracts. You got to be crazy to risk your ass to try to keep other people in line. So it's older kids who have kept their siblings in line and things like that. There's a variety of factors, but the point is that it's a pretty good system generally. Now, it can be tweaked at the edges, and somebody I know wrote a book about it.
Yes, yes, you did.
That's right, called Black and Blue Lives. You can pick this book up. It tells you exactly how to
There it is.
that's right, reform the system.
Actually, this gives you instructions on what to do from
If you're getting arrested and that
or
kind of stuff.
even in court or anything,
That's
the
right.
whole deal. What is it? It is kind of interesting. One of the things you have to, it seems to me, and this is what that book tells you a lot, is shut up.
Shut the hell up.
I mean, because the fact is that when they pull you over, you're guilty as far in their eyes. You're already guilty.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're not going to explain your way out.
No.
You're going to explain your way back in.
Oh yeah, deeper.
That's even deeper. So that's stupid. You shut up.
It's hard for people to understand, but when most people interact with police, it's a bad thing for the police. I mean, 90% of their interactions with people are somebody getting arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they treat anybody who walks up to them. You can't walk up like, "Hey, nice motorcycle." Like they're thinking this guy's going to steal my motorcycle. I mean, it's just their natural way of perceiving it. But so anyway, all right.
Well, as I say, I tell you the story very often of when I was in San Antonio one time, and I went out back in my cigarette days, went out and I met this guy outside the hotel having my first morning cigarette, 6 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "What do you do?" "Well, I'm a retired drug enforcement DEA," and he says, "People are scum." Everybody would. I said, "What?" And I just realized, well, that's the milieu that you've been in for 30 years.
Totally.
Of course people are scum.
He's drowning.
And of course, I had just come from driving all across the country in a bunch of different places and met the nicest people on the planet, the whole deal. I'm thinking, this is what, when you're in that particular milieu, this is like the swamp, the people, when I listen to the commentators in Washington, D.C., for instance, well, that's all those people. That's, if you're going to get along in Washington, if you want to go to the parties, you are, that's the kind of stuff that happens. So let me move on.
Okay.
MIT, this is something that's a little scary in a way. MIT develops an AI tool, artificial intelligence tool, to detect COVID by listening to coughs. MIT researchers have developed an AI pre-screening tool that can accurately detect if someone has COVID-19 via audio of their cough. The breakthrough technology could be embedded into a smartphone app and distributed to the general population.
Lucky you, it's already embedded in your phone.
That's right. Well, that's all. But I mean, it's even before clinical testing to recognize if somebody's infected. With a second coronavirus wave arriving in Europe and the U.S., the AI pre-screening tool could be an effective way to screen for asymptomatic patients. Well, which means even with the cough and you don't show anything, the cough will give you away. And I'm wondering, is there any way could it be abused? Do you think? I mean,
the AI is gonna get interesting with. There's a lot that can be done with vocal recognition stuff. I mean, a lot of patterns show up, and
cough. You wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have to go through all the different kinds of coughs.
Yeah. And the thing is all it needs is a slight difference in audio signature. I mean, you've seen the waves that we play with, I think, when we do the show here.
Mm-hmm.
I get a visual representation of the show.
Right.
And you can adjust things just by moving the wave around, and it's very specific. And I got to the point where I could recognize when we say or without listening to it.
Okay.
I can just see the wave form. And that's just me working a few hours on the thing.
Right.
Once we put an AI working at this, talking about breaking it down to the micro level,
Yeah.
The listening is gonna change a lot.
It was interesting. Speaking of AI, I was watching a YouTube thing that it was put together, I think in 95, maybe early 90s, about the where is AI, and it's amazing to me how far it's come in 25 years or whatever since. I mean, that thing was so primitive compared to what today is. I mean, just today, when you think about,
it's getting better and better.
I mean, well, they were talking about a voice voice recognition. They were trying to come up with the algorithm, the programs, and so forth. And they're doing this stuff on these monster computers, roomful computers, the IBM, whatever the hell it is, and hundreds and thousands of lines of code. And you think about it today, you're on your phone, for God's sakes. It's pretty damn good.
It's amazing.
It is just truly amazing.
I, unfortunately, just in the last few days, had my first scary thought about an AI. I've never worried about the concept that the computers would take over, because my thought was always, if you created one computer to take over, then somebody else could create another computer to take over that computer. I mean, it's too... It works against itself everywhere. But then I was thinking, if you created an AI and you just said, look, your singular purpose as your AI is just to defeat other intelligent life. Exactly. And you just said, look, and so what do you do is you tell it
carbon-based infestation.
Well, you would just tell it to identify intelligence and then disrupt it in some way. And what it could do at that point is, if it got to a certain level of power, then it could prevent any other computers from getting in front of it. But you still couldn't do that really, because somebody comes up with quantum computing and it just smashes through all that computer's defenses, and no problem.
Well, then the other guy comes up with quantum squared.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, it's Skynet. Mm-hmm. Good deal. Now the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting here, I think just about the last thing. Let me just check here real quick, because this is kind of scary. Israeli minister warns of war in the Middle East if Biden wins.
Really?
Yeah. For Israel, this would represent an existential threat to national security and drastically increase the chances of war with Tehran. Now, one of the things is he might redo the
Iran deal.
The Iran deal.
Yeah.
They were all for that. If Biden stays with that policy, there will in the end be a violent confrontation between Israel and Iran, said the minister. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, other Middle Eastern countries, such as Egypt, are concerned that a Biden administration would mirror Barack Obama's policies, which led to Islamists being empowered in the region. Obama spearheaded the disastrous interventions in Syria and Libya, which led to the rise of ISIS and the international migrant crisis. So this is, they're starting to look ahead and say, if Biden goes over and pulls an Obama, they're thinking.
Yeah, the only good news is Obama is less capable. Biden is less capable than Obama. So okay. he may think to himself, I'm going to do something, but he'll probably just sit around in the basement. And he may get the call. I'm sure he's going to get the call. Hey, how about that $1 billion?
Yeah.
But what's he really going to get done? I don't know.
Well, again, we're going to wait and see.
Yeah.
We got a lot of little hurdles. This is like the
tons of hurdles.
This is like the 400-yard high hurdles or whatever.
It totally is. You think about it. As Dershowitz pointed out on his podcast. Look, whatever you think about elections, there has always been election interference.
Yeah. Right.
There's always election fraud.
Yeah.
The only question is on what scale. That's it. That's the only question. So this is the how you make the sausage type of day, and the question
that's
is,
right. Yeah, that's right.
How deep are they going to look into the sausage making?
Well, and of course that you're right, and of course the other thing is, where are you? There are two things to consider. How much stuff are you going to find that makes it worthwhile to keep looking? Number
right.
one, do you really have the time? Now you understand that a lot of laws. No time. Right. One of the things that you do find, of course, is that we've seen a lot of laws, especially the laws that had to do with people. What do you call it? The laws in schools where people could come in. Come on, I'm losing my train of thought here. Where you could have different kinds of people in colleges, and the way they did it was they took
the affirmative action.
The way they did it was they used statistics,
right.
And they said this is such, and it should be this, and the court said, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Well, wait a minute.
Well, that's outcome determinative has been righteous fire for a while now, because the problem with outcome determinatives is, of course, somebody has to make the call that now is the time to do the measurement.
Right.
And then if you do it once, why not do it again?
Yeah.
If things get out of whack, and then what happens if you make everybody equal and then half the people go out and spend all of their money that day? Do you then do another reassessment the next day and give half of the money from the people who didn't spend their money to the people who spent it? I mean, and how often do you do that? Do you do it once a month? Is it an annual thing? Annual reset?
Well, UBI or whatever.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is the government just a grand equalization force that just takes from the rich?
You mean equalization of outcome?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And just no matter who you are, if you're lucky and you make it, or if you're good and you make it, we're going to take shit from you and give it to the people who didn't, no matter what. And then how many people does that? I mean, it means private property means nothing, obviously. And I'm frozen for some reason.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. But
you disappeared. Oh, there you are.
See if I can get me back.
Okay.
But so that entire approach is
well,
crazy.
it is one thing that's where this comes to light. Of course, there was the election business on the 5 southern states or something where you had to get clearance in order to change your things, and the Supreme Court, like last year, said, okay, we're done. It's been 40 years. You've pretty much done it for 4. Well, boy, I talk about the kickback on that.
Well, we're going to see.
We want our restrictions back.
Well, and here's going to be the interesting concept of, like we said, no riots right now because Biden's won. How long do all those people who were dressed up wait until they finally go out and do something? And we saw, I started to play one clip of some kids going out, and there's going to be it's just going to be more and more and more, because, like I said, once you let out the Kraken, it's got to be fed. I mean, you just don't allow stuff like this to happen, and then these people decide, we're done now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got to do this for a while, you think you're going to get to do this going forward, because why not? I mean, what's to stopping you? Why would you limit your power just because somebody got elected or something? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So they're going to go out soon enough and do something, and they're going to make their claims, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how Biden and the group respond to them. Now, to me, the good thing about the Biden presidency, I'm fingers crossed, is legalizing marijuana.
Okay.
If they would do that on a national level, I think it would really, really go a long way to easing race relations. I mean, in a serious way. If they wipe out people's past records and let people rejoin society as though they were just drinkers or whatever else, and just come on back.
Well, not only that, it would certainly put a hole in the cartels.
Exactly. Another thing, a really big move in terms of law enforcement friction. I mean, that it just could be really huge. I don't think people understand how many people are in jail for that and have records for that, and how it's messed up their driving records. And we had a law in Florida here for a long time. If you got a marijuana conviction, you lost your driver's license, even if it had nothing to do with your. You weren't in a car or anything like that. Like, why would they restrict? How could they restrict your freedom of movement just based on the chemical composition of your blood? It's so bizarre when you think about it at a detailed level. So I would just hope something like that could happen. Now, of course, what should have happened if we were to get our dream wish and the libertarian candidate got in or whatever, or somehow Biden gets the right religion and decides to do the right thing, or some senators pop up who have some power or something. There are real things they could do in Congress, which I don't expect, but could really make a difference. And we've talked about these a million times, but it's worth repeating, and that is the restrictions on people's work that we have all over this country. On so many levels, we have work restrictions which prevent people from pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. AOC complains, you can't pull yourself up by your bootstrap. You don't know why? It's because there are literally law after law. There are piles of laws on top of you as to why you can't do that. You can't go out, for example, and copy someone's great idea or someone's work off of their like their CDs. You can't make a bunch of mixed CDs and sell them online or something because it infringes on somebody's copyright, their IP. You know, you can't work at a business that would create the new vaccine because there is a copyright, a patent on the thing. There's so many different restrictions on patents, copyright.
They're called the barriers to entry.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the other thing that they did here in Florida. They decided to go ahead. They've passed the $15
minimum wage.
I mean, what are they thinking?
They're thinking that all the employers are just going to pay more money.
Well, the thing about it is, if you're a kid, you're 16-year-old, and your mom says, look, you got to go get a job.
I argued with people on that, and I said, what about the youths? And they said, well, most youths are 18 to 25. And I said, well, what about the youths who aren't?
Yeah.
What about the youths who are actually youths? You know, what about the elderly or the handicapped
right,
or the infirm or just the lazy?
Can you imagine if I wanted to be a greeter?
Exactly.
I mean, you know, I'm
$15 an hour.
15 bucks. No. I'm sorry. No. We're going to put a robot out there that says, hello.
Exactly.
And, you know, that's all there is to it.
That's it. We're going to record you saying it one time, put it on the screen.
That's it.
Here's your $15.
Yeah, well, that's right. Or, yeah, what they'll do
You worked 1 hour.
Yeah, well, what you could do, no, what you do is you'd put, like they did in Big Bang, where Sheldon set himself up on a robot-y thing and had a screen, and he was back in his bedroom, and it rolled around, and he talked to people. What they would do is put this screen up in every Walmart, and then I would just sit there.
You're the one greeter, right?
The one greeter,
that's right.
Come on in,
Yeah, that's it. Look, and it just goes on and on. They will have robots working at McDonald's, flipping your burgers in no time. It's a crazy way. They're gonna kick people out of the work sphere by that particular one. Another one is zoning stuff. You know, you want to open up a restaurant in your house? Too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Man.
Too bad. You want to cut people's hair? Too bad. You don't have a license.
How about if you just want to braid it?
That's what I'm saying.
You know, no chemicals involved. All I'm going to do is braid it.
Bad.
$10,000, 2 years, cosmetology.
It's crazy, crazy stuff. These are the real impediments that they could address. The real thing, institutional, if you want to call it racism, whatever you want to call it, it's classism, but it's holding the people who are down now, who happen to be the minorities, and the people who just arrived. I mean, of course it's going to be them.
Well, it's also the people with the young kids coming up who don't have any experience. They need to have an experience on getting that paycheck and arriving on time and doing what you're told.
Look, there is a natural, great built-in equalizer for all of us, and it's called birth.
Yeah, right.
When you are born, you got nothing, okay?
Yeah.
Even if your parents have all kinds of wealth, you in particular have nothing. You may be handed stuff, but until you generate all of that stuff that you can do, it doesn't matter. It's just not, that doesn't make the difference. You know, Elizabeth Warren had her big thing about that, and they're trying to put the concept out there that the differences in people is just a matter of opportunity. Guess what? I'm sorry, it's not. There's a lot of luck involved, and it has to do not only with who you were born from, but who you were born as. You know, there's a ton of people out there who are, I'm going to say half the people have less than average intelligence.
Yep.
And right. they are just not going to be in the hyper-productive category of people. And not only that, but the way that it striates out, it turns out that there's a very small, it's like the Pareto principle thing. There's a very small group of people who do pretty much every damn thing, okay?
Well, it's the 80-20 principle.
Yeah, well, it's actually, there's something called Price's theorem, and 5% of the people do 95% of everything.
Okay.
And everybody else sits on their asses, okay? You're never going to get those people, especially the ones down in the 5%. At the low end of the 5%, they're never going to do anything, no matter what your societal program is. It's just not going to happen. Now, the good news is they don't need that. They don't need to be the leader of society, because as was pointed out in Star Trek a long time ago, your ambition and your abilities are directly related. They're directly proportional. If you can just barely get through the day, then just barely getting through the day is a good thing for you. It fulfills you. All right? If you have this massive capacity, then you're not going to be you're not going to be fulfilled by UBI. Somebody cutting you a check and you sitting on your ass all day. It's just not going to make any difference to you if you're in the 5% that's doing everything group. So the current liberal concept of everybody being on a much more equal plane is just not reality. And you look around, a lot of people point out the gender differences in places that are more free and allow freer gender differences, like the Scandinavian countries. They say that the differences actually accentuate as you allow freedom of population, because people, it turns out, are different, and genders are different, and they're not as different as genders aren't as different as people are. I mean, you get a much wider range of people within both gender than you do genders within people. But the point is that what was the point?
I don't know.
Economic freedom.
Okay, yeah, we're in the weeds here.
That's the way forward now. So. All right, well, let me just wrap up since we're pretty much done here. I just wanted to see it. Let's see. Yeah, double down if you thought Trump was a dictator. Now is your chance to look really smart, because the third act is underway. Okay, next time we do voting, I'm going to say vote by phone and ranked choice voting.
Okay.
If we don't have those two innovations in the next 4 years, we suck. Honestly, if you
Maine does ranked choice now, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought some people had busted
I think there's
into
two
it.
states, at least Maine, and I think one other.
Once people see how much better it is in terms of the outcomes for the game theory, it is so much better. It really cuts into the whole duopoly problem.
Yeah. Well, I do know that some people have been accusing what's her name, the Libertarian, of winning,
stealing votes
in a couple of places. If she hadn't been there,
she gets blamed. Yeah, for both. No matter who it was. What I always say is, well, they stole the votes from her.
Yeah.
If they hadn't been in the race,
yeah,
she'd have won.
Yeah.
So ranked voting, vote by phone. That's what I'm saying. When you talked about the wars, I was interested that during the entire presidential campaign, nobody mentioned foreign policy.
Interesting.
I mean,
and that's
arguably the biggest issue.
Biggest issue. Well, that's what the president actually can do.
Right.
I mean,
his greatest power.
He unilaterally do anything he wants.
Can do 700,000, 600,000 people on the Saudi Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
Police action, man.
Yeah.
Just clean it up a little.
Just clean up, yeah, same thing, yeah, right.
So I'm curious to think. So a little bit more on Biden's first 100 days.
He's got to select a cabinet.
Well, yeah,
that's a big deal.
Well, God, the speculation about it is just hideous.
And no, it is unbelievable. I was going through. They've ranked them all and everything. Of course, they still have to get past the Senate too.
What, the cabinet?
Yeah.
They have to be confirmed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really?
I believe that's true.
That makes sense.
They have to be confirmed.
Because I had heard that maybe they weren't going to get all their wishes, and I was like, why not? How can that be? I thought he just appointed them.
Nope. He gets they have to be confirmed. They're just like judges. Yeah. Now they usually slide through pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because you select somebody for agriculture. Why are you going to fight that?
Hell no, I don't want them in there.
That's right.
They're going to burn the fields.
Yeah. Well, they did say on that note, the selection that he has to make is really weird in a way, because if he starts selecting senators to be in the cabinet, that goes away. That takes away
from the Senate.
It might, Now, of course, they get
Warren and
they get reappointed by
Bernie.
Yeah, well, but they're going to get reappointed in the same party more than likely.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, more than likely. But there's some governors and some people that are in swing states, and they barely made it.
Right.
And you point that, and then there has to be another election.
Right.
Ooh,
tricky, a little tricky. Well, and I mean the cabinets, they can't do too much, except, of course, the big thing that the cabinet can do now is the 25th Amendment.
Yep.
Now, here's the big question. Do you think it's going to be brunch with Hillary or beer with Obama?
I don't know.
Brunch with Hillary is, of course, Joe dies.
Yeah, right.
And beer with Obama is the talk. You know? You bring in Obama to give him the talk.
Okay.
Like, it's time, Joe. It's time. Thanks for the transition.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. This is an interesting thought I've had. Now, we've joked a lot about Biden not being in control or in power or whatever.
Did pretty well in this little speech he did.
He's doing fine, and it could turn out, and I think it's more likely than not, that he's his own man and in control of his faculties to the extent that he's going to be president. But there is, I think, a chance, I think a reasonable chance, 30, 40%, somewhere in there, somewhere between 25 and 40, that there was some kind of a deal made. Mm-hmm. That they said, Joe, we'll all back you if you turn this over to Kamala. Or if you get out of the way after a certain amount of time or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I don't think it's likely.
Yeah.
I just think it's possible.
Conspiracy
Well,
theorists.
look, like I said, I don't think it's likely. I think it's unlikely. But if that happened, I'm going to speculate on it real quick. Just because I think if they ever gave anybody else a glimpse at the power, then they're not waiting 4 years.
Okay.
Because that's all the power, if you think about it. I mean, humans don't do well. It's like giving them the ring from the Lord of the Rings.
Fodor, whatever his
That's
name.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Frodo.
That's right. Give me the ring, and whoever gets the ring starts to go mad immediately, and covets the ring instantly. That's its power. Okay, and the presidency of the United States, make no mistake, is the ring in our universe. And if anybody was ever shown that, if Kamala, for example, or anybody else was told that they were at some point in the future going to have access to the ring, they will not wait, because
It was funny. There was you have to see it, I suppose. I forget which one it was, but one of the Big Bang things was they had found the ring.
Oh yeah.
It was a seriously, and everybody was coveting the ring.
Right.
And Sheldon would go in because what's her name, Penny, had worn it around her neck or something. And he went in there and went fishing for it, and she wakes up and socks him or something, scares the shit out. But I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This was, they all were hanging on to it at one time. The 3 or 4 of them, whoever lets go first.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
Let me tell you, this was Big Bang 4 or 5 years ago.
Those writers understand humans.
I mean, they did.
And the human, and so does J.R.R. Tolkien. And I'm telling you, if the door has been opened, then either brunch with Hillary or beer with Obama is on the calendar.
Okay.
So that's all I'm saying there. So, all right, I think that's it.
I think we're done for today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, one more thing.
Okay.
As we go out here, as I show the where are my copyrights? There we go. Copyrights. Play the music. One more thing here. If it just so happens that they go after Trump, right?
Yeah.
And they get him, let's say.
Okay.
Can you imagine Trump in jail, but with a Twitter account?
Whoa.
Because I don't think they would silence him. I mean, OJ and Bill Cosby has a Twitter.
Does he?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and the Trumpster, at least right now, has got 25 million followers or something.
I mean, something. It's like, yeah, exactly.
At least.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. That to me, the idea that they're going to go after him is the most insane thing I've ever heard.
I think Biden is the least likely of. I could see Kamala going after him, or Kamala, but
For what?
because look, she went after Kavanaugh for being a rapist. She's a prosecutor. She can come up with something. Trust me. If she thinks that you did something wrong, you did something wrong. Okay, that's Kamala.
You still got to have a jury trial and everything. It would take forever.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put her in the ultra competent category of the jury trial either.
No.
But still. Anyway, all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you had some fun. What's going on, Ricardo? What's going on, Scott? You think it's over, huh, Scott? You think it's over? You better watch out. Don't be celebrating on the goal line. That's right. Reverend Alex Snow, it would not be the final nail in the coffin of democracy if the Supreme Court gave it to Trump, because it's the Supreme Court.
It's called the Supreme Court.
That's right, for a reason. And yeah, Paris Climate Accords, you think so?
Yeah?
Yeah. Read through that one, would you? Read through that one and tell me when you get to paragraph 19 or 22. What do you see there?
It's all voluntary.
It's all voluntary, exactly. And you can withdraw with notice.
As we did.
As we did, and anybody can do. It's just a bullshit agreement. But anyway, love to talk to you about it sometime. Should have checked these earlier. Thanks. We'll see you soon on the 17th.
Wednesday. What is it, about the 11th or something? Yeah, on the 11th.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at the date here. Wrong time, date, whatever. All right, good night.